Native Americans, we're not a people of the past. We're a people of the present. And all too often, as I've done DEI work around the country, I find stereotypes and unconscious biases keep us trapped in a place where we never experience the fullness of life. Think about it like this. How many times have you seen the image of a Native American? And I promise you, I don't historically, stereotypically look like that image upon which you've seen. I've been often asked, you can't be Native American. Where's your ponytail? You can't be Native American. You're dressed in a suit. I have to remind them that 78% of all Native Americans live off reservation. We've left those third world conditions of reservation tribal lands in hopes of finding some economic freedom and relief, some better health care, some better education, maybe just simply running water and electricity. So, we're not a people of the past. We're people of the present. I want to share something with you that happened this year. Once again, not a political discussion. Please do not drive it that way. Don't look at it that way. I just want to state some facts. This is the first time in the history of the United States, that a Native American is heading up the Department of the Interior, which is responsible for a large number of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, dollars, appropriations, programs. We finally got a Native American that can be in charge of that understands the empathetic needs of the people. We're making progress. We got there. We're making a lot of strides. But I submit to you, while we're the smallest minority group in the United States, we have some of the most magnified problems. Let's dive into this today. So the first question we probably need to dispel is, who is a Native American and how does one become a Native American and what constitutes being a Native American? Generally, it's just simply a person who has some degree of blood and is recognized by an Indian nation, Indian tribe, a village, some formalized tribe in the United States. They tell me you must have at least 1/4 blood percent to be a tribal member. I'm going to share with you in just a little while my tribal card and explain to you why that's so important. Why this senseless divide, I'll keep weaving that theme in today, is so important to me. And I hope it becomes important to you, that we eradicate this and we stop this once and for all. So it's no more than someone who has to prove who they are by blood. So Carrie, here's the most interesting fact that I should tell you on that slide. Native Americans are the only group of people that have to prove who we are by blood. Now, you certainly wouldn't go up to an African American, an Asian American, or any other descent, culture, creed in our world and ask them to prove who they are. Now, why is that? Why is that divide so important? What is the meaning behind that? Is it to separate us? Is it to keep us in a box? I don't know. No, this is not a political discussion. It's a factual discussion. Sit back and relax. Open up the windows of your soul. Open up your mind to receive some new dialogue. If you don't like it when it's over, discard it. But if you find something here today, build upon it. And so it's real simple. We prove who we are by blood. I remember when the state of Maryland had something called the Minority Business Enterprise Program. And Carrie, I wanted to be part of that because they said if you were a minority contractor and you could prove who you were, you could have some preferential, and I love to use that word, contracting opportunities. Well, they came to my house and they said they wanted to come to my office and do a site visit. Now, I found that interesting. Why would they need to come to my office to do a site visit to find out if I'm Native American? So when they came to my office, they saw the computers, they saw everything, and they said, "You're Native American, huh?" I said, "You know what? You should probably come to my house." And they said, That's interesting. We never quite had that request. I said, "No, you should probably come to my house and I can show you better than I can tell you." So when they walked in, it was a museum. Literally, eagle feathers, Native American artists, pottery, quilts, blankets, jewelry, all over my house. And I shared with the investigator, I said, "Now, we just didn't put this in here last night. We've been Native Americans since we were born. I wanted you to see this so you know what it looks like. Proving once again who we are by blood." Carrie, the senseless divide. So the senseless divide in the workplace. Native Americans, now watch this one, don't miss this, Carrie. Native Americans living in the majority native areas. That is simply meaning tribal lands, trust, living on reservations. are more than twice likely of those living in non-majority native areas, cities, urban settings, to say they faced anti-hate discrimination. Folks, we have to look at people through a different lens. So now I want to talk about the senseless divide in our healthcare. So, Carrie, this was my claim to fame while I was the executive director of the Baltimore American Indian Center in Southeast Baltimore, where at that particular time, we might have had 5, 6, 7, 8,000 Native Americans. And I had the pleasure of serving them. Boy, I want to start by telling you, that was an interesting job. Now, Carrie, 3 blocks away from our headquarters office was Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the most prominent health institutions in the world. However, when Native Americans would suffer some illness or something tragic and needed health care, they couldn't walk 3 blocks to Johns Hopkins and get care. They had to go back to their tribal lands. I want you to think about this just for a minute. How senseless of a divide is that? How senseless is it that the same Native American card that I'm going to show when I get to my tribal hospital, I can't show to another hospital that is probably 80% subsidized by the federal government? It was a nightmare. Healthcare disparities. Native Americans have the highest diabetes rate in the United States. We lead the charts in so many health crises. I won't even tell you the devastation that COVID had on our people. But I got to get to this next slide. Reservation communities are generally either rural, remote, sometimes even both. Very little supporting infrastructure. More than 30% of people living on the Navajo reservation lacked pipe water and electricity. Pipe water. You know, like to cook with, to drink with, to bathe with. 30%. I hope today I've opened up the windows of your mind. I hope today I've gone into some recesses of your heart that maybe you will have more empathy, more sense of understanding. Water resources, including wells, water stations, can be miles away. Because where are we talking about tribal lands are? Here's just a tip for you. A, in plush resorts. B, in the middle of the greatest threshold of economic minerals. Or C, in the desert. Or D, none of the above. Oh wait, you got it. C, in the desert. Interesting. Enough said. Let's move on. Only 13 grocery stores serve some 20,000 square foot mile reservation. In addition, many online retailers, they won't even ship to post office boxes. And a majority of these, watch this, and a majority of these rural settings on reservations don't even have street addresses. So, Carrie, what does that mean we can't even get?
Oh, it sounds bad. Sounds like you can't even get
Amazon!
It's hard to believe.
You can't even become a Prime member. You're gonna be kidding me. I thought everybody could get Amazon. The inability for residents to prepare healthy foods. You know, food desert. This isn't the real example of a food desert. Personal protective equipment, antibiotics, just the simple things. Light bulbs. Light bulbs. Say light bulbs. Somebody say light bulbs. And look what the pandemic has done. It's taken such a toll, including our infrastructure, the lack of it. I work with some groups that go out to reservations and they do nothing. They're utility companies, they do nothing but provide free labor to get people back up. You know what they tell me? They said, wow, all we did was put a Band-Aid on it. We got them electricity, but as soon as it breaks, they can't fix it. As soon as something happens, they can't fix it. Do you think a broadband carrier is interested in setting up in the desert a tower that might only serve a few thousand people? Probably not. Now, the number one thing, if you have something to write with, I'd encourage you to write this down. This is why we have this senseless divide, because trust has been broken. Let me repeat. Trust has been broken. You see, let me tell you the three components of building trust. Maybe this will help you. The first component of building trust is there must be communication. Think about this stool, if you will, with three legs. The first leg is communication. There has to be someone talking and someone listening. Someone interpreting what someone is saying, not looking to talk over top of them and dominate the discussion and talk at them, but to really engage in dialogue. First leg of the stool. The second leg is really critical. Arthur, there must be relationship. We have to have meaningful relationship before we can build trust. If trust is the seat of the stool, I'm going to give you the three legs. Relationship. Arthur, the challenge with relationship is this. While relationship takes time to build, it only takes seconds to tear it down. And the underlying principle of relationship is something called respect. And everybody's definition of respect is completely different. Some people believe respect should be earned. Some people think respect should be given. Some people say, treat me the way I want to be treated. Some people say, why would I want to do that? I think higher of myself. Why don't you treat me the way I want to be treated? So we have such a discourse there in relationship. Then when we have trust, to build trust, and we got communication, relationship, Eartha, then we get to acceptance. So what you may be working on in your case is to get this place where there's some type of acceptance. Does the majority population look at you and see you as equal? That's the first problem we have. Yeah, I said it. It had to be said. Do we really think about people as human beings? When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I want you to know that E stands for equality. And before we can get to equality, we must understand equity. That everybody has a right to be treated fairly. And I'm not talking about the fair where they judge pigs and give away ribbons and carry. I'm not talking about where chickens and all kind of livestock is. I'm not talking about that fair. I'm talking about the fair of heart, the fair inside of you, the fair of treating people right. Why did one group experience such a traumatic difference?